A case over cursing that had many of you declaring freedom of speech. A tourist arrested by police in Helen, Georgia for dropping the F-bomb, prompting many questions about the First Amendment. But does freedom of speech protect profanity? Liza Lucas verifies.
The arrest of Morgan Wilson sparked a lot of questions. Some of you posting his arrest goes completely against constitutional rights. So we wanted to verify, does the First Amendment's freedom of speech cover profanity?
So the language of the First Amendment does not convey the idea that citizens have a right to speak. Instead, it conveys the idea that government is not supposed to interfere with freedom of speech.
That's UGA journalism professor Dr. William Lee, who teaches the First Amendment. According to Dr. Lee, not all speech is protected.
Fighting words, true threats, fraud, those categories traditionally have been understood as being outside the First Amendment's protection.
But what about profanity?
Profanity is protected by the First Amendment depending on the context.
Take the 1971 case Cohen versus California. The Supreme Court ruled Cohen had a right to wear a jacket with a profanity referencing the draft. The court ruled the jacket did not justify fighting words.
Justice Harlan said something very interesting, and that was that we really can't trust government officials to cleanse the public dialogue, to say that certain words are okay and other words aren't okay.
That was a precedent for political speech using profanity, but there have been other cases where courts ruled profanity was not protected.
The freedom that Mr. Cohen had to wear his jacket would not exist had he been a student at a public school. It's not as though you could say, yes, you may use profane language wherever you like. Context is more critical.
So we can verify profanity can be protected, but that shouldn't be taken for granted if it's a threat or fighting words, and context like political or religious expression also matters.
Well, do you have something you want us to verify? Let us know. Contact us on Twitter or Facebook. You can also send an email to verify@11alive.com.